I gave her a sandwich, now she says I'm the father of the galactic heir. Part 1, The Molecular Exchange. Dr. Lyra Novak stared at the invitation hologram floating above her data pad, its crystalline edges pulsing with an iridescent glow that seemed unnaturally formal for what should have been a routine follow-up. You can't be serious, she muttered, adjusting the collar of her blue research uniform. The message was clear, if incomprehensible. Her presence was requested at the Andromedan embassy for a ceremonial acknowledgement of molecular commitment. 3 days earlier, all she'd done was share her lunch with a visiting diplomat. Space Station Helios orbited the neutral zone between human space and the crystalline reaches of the Andromedan Collective. As the station's leading xenobiologist, Lyra spent most days in her lab studying the biological compatibility between species. Real diplomacy happened elsewhere, or it was supposed to. Dr. Novak? The station's AI chimed softly. The Andromedan shuttle has arrived at Docking Bay 7. Lyra sighed, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. Thank you, Nova. Any insights on what this molecular commitment might be? My database contains limited information on Andromedan customs, the AI replied. However, ceremonial language typically indicates significant social or political events. Wonderful, Lyra muttered. All this because I shared a sandwich. The memory played back with perfect clarity. She'd been eating in the station's arboretum when Zephyr, the newly arrived Andromedan cultural attaché, had drifted into the garden. With skin like polished quartz that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, Zephyr had been studying the earth plants with what appeared to be fascination. Their conversation had been pleasant enough, discussions of photosynthesis across different star systems, the cultural significance of shared meals. When Zephyr expressed curiosity about human food, Lyra had offered half of her fusion cuisine wrap. The diplomat had analyzed it with what looked like specialized sensory appendages before consuming it through a process Lyra still didn't fully understand. It had seemed like nothing more than a friendly cultural exchange. The shuttle bay doors hissed open as Lyra arrived. Inside waited not just a standard diplomatic transport but an ornate vessel covered in what appeared to be living crystal formations. 2 Andromedan honor guards flanked the entrance, their crystalline forms pulsing with internal light. Dr. Lyra Novak, one announced, its voice like wind chimes. The House of Celestial Resonance welcomes you. Please board for transit to the ceremonial gathering. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Lyra began. I'm just a xenobiologist. I'm not prepared for formal diplomatic. Your modesty honors us, the second guard interrupted, but the molecular union has already been registered. The royal family awaits. Royal family? Molecular union? Lyra felt a knot forming in her stomach as she reluctantly boarded the shuttle. The interior was even more elaborate than the exterior. Walls of living crystal that hummed with what seemed like anticipation, seating that adjusted to her human physiology the moment she sat down. Can someone please explain what's happening? She asked as the shuttle detached from the station. A smaller Andromedan she hadn't noticed before shifted forward. Unlike the guards, this one's crystalline structure was tinted blue, with intricate patterns swirling beneath the surface. I am Lumina, personal attendant to Zephyr, heir of the 7th resonance, the being explained. You have bestowed upon our heir the greatest honor by offering molecular exchange. The royal family has expedited all arrangements for your union. Lyra blinked. My union? The prepared sustenance you shared, Lumina continued, as if this explained everything. Your sandwich, I believe you call it. A profound gesture, containing molecules grown and assembled by your own species, wrapped in a design of your creation. In Andromedan culture, such an offering constitutes a formal proposal of genetic and spiritual compatibility. The knot in Lyra's stomach tightened. Are you saying that because I shared my lunch with Zephyr, we're engaged? The Andromedan's form pulsed with what might have been amusement or affirmation. More than engaged. The exchange was accepted and consumed. By our laws, molecular integration has begun. The ceremony today merely formalizes what has already been established in the biological realm. The shuttle docked with the Andromedan embassy before Lyra could process this information fully. Unlike the utilitarian design of most station attachments, the embassy was a spiraling structure of crystal and light, parts of it seemingly phasing in and out of conventional space. Lyra was escorted through corridors that widened as they approached what appeared to be a central chamber. The walls here were embedded with what looked like historical records, three-dimensional scenes playing out in crystal, depicting what she assumed were significant moments in Andromedan history. The Hall of Molecular Memory, Lumina explained. Soon, your exchange with Zephyr will be recorded here. The central chamber opened into a vast space where dozens of Andromedans had gathered. They parted as Lyra entered, their crystalline bodies creating a kaleidoscope effect as light passed through them. At the far end, on what appeared to be an elevated platform, stood three larger Andromedans, their forms more complex, more radiant than the others. And beside them was Zephyr, whose crystalline structure seemed to brighten upon seeing Lyra. My chosen molecular partner, Zephyr's voice resonated through the chamber. You honor us with your presence. The largest of the royal Andromedans moved forward. I am Solarin, progenitor of the seventh resonance. You have done our lineage great honor, human scientist. For 12 cycles, we feared Zephyr would never find a compatible molecular structure for continuation of our frequency. Continuation? Lyra managed to ask, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her panic. The next generation, Zephyr explained, moving closer to Lyra. My internal resonance patterns have always been unconventional. Finding a compatible molecular structure for offspring creation has been challenging. Offspring? Lyra's voice cracked slightly. I don't think humans and Andromedans can. Your sandwich, Zephyr interrupted, voice vibrating with what seemed like excitement. The molecular structure was perfect, proteins folded in patterns complementary to my crystalline formation. The spice compounds, particularly fascinating. When I consumed it, my internal analysis confirmed compatibility at 94.3%, a record in cross-species molecular harmony. The second royal Andromedan moved forward. I am Celestia, co-progenitor. We have already submitted the molecular compatibility analysis to the Galactic Registry. Your union is officially recognized across 17 systems. Lyra felt lightheaded. This is happening rather fast, don't you think? On Earth, people usually date for a while before getting married, let alone having children. The Andromedans around her pulsed with confusion. Date? Zephyr questioned. You wish to measure time before proceeding? Our scientists can accelerate temporal perception if you require additional psychological processing periods. No, I mean, Lyra took a deep breath. Where I come from, people get to know each other first. They build emotional connections before making commitments like this. Zephyr's crystalline form shifted, creating patterns Lyra hadn't seen before. But you prepared molecular structures specifically balanced to my biological needs. The sandwich, it contained elements addressing my specific nutritional requirements. Such thoughtfulness indicates deep understanding already. Lyra was about to explain that the sandwich had been standard human fare, nothing special, when a realization hit her. She had modified it, not for Zephyr specifically, but because her research had indicated certain spice compounds might be perceivable to crystalline-based lifeforms. It had been a small experiment, nothing more. Before she could explain this, a ceremonial chime resonated through the chamber. The registry confirmation has arrived, announced an official-looking Andromedan. The Galactic Union of Planets recognizes the molecular commitment between Zephyr of the Seventh Resonance and Dr. Lyra Novak of Earth. Genetic contribution rights and responsibilities are hereby established. The gathered Andromedans began to pulse with light in what appeared to be celebration. Zephyr moved closer to Lyra, their crystalline surface reflecting her stunned expression. I understand your confusion, Zephyr said, their voice lowered to what might have been the Andromedan equivalent of a whisper. Your species values extended courtship rituals. But please understand, for my people, molecular compatibility is rare and precious. What you offered me was not just sustenance but hope for our lineage's future. Lyra's scientific mind finally began to work again. Zephyr, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I didn't know the cultural significance of sharing food with you. Zephyr's form dimmed slightly. You did not intend a molecular proposal? No, Lyra admitted. On Earth, sharing food is just friendly. Before Zephyr could respond, Commander Torrin Reed, the station's diplomatic liaison, was suddenly at Lyra's side, his normally composed face tight with concern. Dr. Novak, he said quietly, I've just been informed of the situation. Don't say anything else until we've consulted with Earth's diplomatic corps. This has escalated to an interstellar incident. Lyra looked from the commander to Zephyr, whose crystalline form had dimmed to a muted glow. Around them, the celebration continued, unaware of the growing tension between the supposed happy couple. What happens now? Lyra whispered to Reed. Now? He grimaced. Now we figure out how to tell a royal family their heir isn't getting married without causing an interstellar incident. And more importantly, his voice dropped even lower, we need to understand what they mean by genetic contribution rights before this gets any more complicated. Zephyr's form began to pulse with what Lyra now recognized as distress, sending ripples of concerned light patterns through the assembled guests. The diplomatic crisis had officially begun. The diplomatic solution. Commander Torrin Reed paced the length of the diplomatic conference room aboard space station Helios, his usually immaculate uniform showing signs of a sleepless night. Across from him, Dr. Lyra Novak sat with her head in her hands, surrounded by datapads displaying various Andromedan cultural texts. Let me get this straight, Reed said, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. You modified a sandwich with xenobiological compounds as an experiment, shared it with an alien royal, and now you're legally bound in what amounts to an interstellar marriage. Lyra looked up, exhaustion evident in her eyes. That about sums it up, Commander. Though marriage isn't quite accurate. It's more like I've been registered as a genetic contributor. Reed stopped pacing. The Galactic Registry of Unions doesn't make mistakes, Doctor. According to our legal advisors, this is binding across 17 systems, including Earth space. The door to the conference room slid open with a soft hiss, admitting Dr. Jannik Volkov, the station's cultural anthropologist. His lanky frame seemed even more stooped than usual as he set down an ancient-looking data crystal. I've been reviewing the most comprehensive text on Andromedan customs, Volkov announced, his accent thickening with fatigue. It appears the molecular union is indeed their most sacred bond, but, he raised a finger, it's not exactly what we would consider marriage. Lyra straightened in her chair. What do you mean? Volkov activated the crystal, projecting a complex diagram of crystalline structures. The Andromedans reproduce through resonance patterns and molecular integration. When they identify a compatible molecular structure, like your specially modified sandwich, they consider it a genetic contribution to their lineage. But I'm not compatible with their physiology, Lyra protested. I'm carbon-based, they're crystalline silicon-based. It's not about direct genetic material, Volkov explained. Your sandwich contained compounds that, when absorbed into Zephyr's structure, created new resonance patterns. By their understanding, you've already contributed to their next generation. Reed's face paled. Are you saying Dr. Novak is already a parent in their eyes? More like a genetic architect, Volkov replied. The Andromedans don't distinguish between designing a compatible molecular structure and what we would consider biological parenthood. To them, intent doesn't matter, only the result. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. There's a bigger problem, Reed finally said. The Andromedan royal family has announced this union across multiple systems. Negating it now could be seen as a grave insult, possibly enough to derail the trade negotiations Earth has been pursuing for years. Lyra stood up suddenly. I need to speak with Zephyr directly. No intermediaries, no diplomats. Just us. Reed shook his head. Out of the question. This is now a diplomatic. With all due respect, Commander, Lyra interrupted, this is my life we're discussing. And based on everything we've learned, Zephyr might be the only one who can help us find a solution that doesn't involve interstellar incident. After a tense moment, Reed nodded. Fine. But I'm coming with you. The Andromedan embassy glittered with subdued light when they arrived, the usual radiance dimmed in what Lyra interpreted as a reflection of Zephyr's distress. They were led not to the grand ceremonial chamber but to a smaller, more intimate space where Zephyr waited alone, their crystalline form pulsing with slow, muted patterns. Dr. Novak. Commander Reed. Zephyr's voice lacked its usual melodic quality. I must express profound regret for the misunderstanding between us. Lyra stepped forward. Zephyr, I want to understand. In your culture, what exactly does this union mean for both of us? Zephyr's form shifted, creating complex patterns that seemed to express something between sadness and contemplation. The sandwich you shared, its molecular structure contained patterns our scientists have been seeking for generations. When I consumed it, these patterns integrated with my crystalline matrix. And that integration is permanent? Reed asked carefully. Yes, Zephyr confirmed. The new resonance patterns have already been established in my structure. In our understanding, Dr. Novak has contributed fundamental architecture to the next generation of my lineage. Lyra's scientific curiosity momentarily overshadowed her concern. You mean the compounds I added actually changed your crystalline structure? Precisely. Zephyr's form brightened slightly. The spice compounds you added, particularly what you call turmeric and star anise, contained molecular configurations that completed a resonance sequence my lineage has been unable to achieve for 3 generations. Reed cleared his throat. So the issue isn't really about marriage in the human sense, but about genetic contribution? Yes. Zephyr's tone suggested this should have been obvious. The public ceremony was to honor Dr. Novak's contribution and formally acknowledge her role in our lineage's continuation. Lyra exchanged glances with Reed before asking, what exactly would be expected of me going forward? Traditionally, nothing beyond what has already occurred, Zephyr explained. The molecular contribution has been made. The offspring, which in your terms would be my eventual progeny, will carry the resonance patterns you provided. Some contributors choose to maintain relationships with the lineage, but it is not required. Reed's diplomatic instincts kicked in. Then perhaps we've been approaching this all wrong. This isn't about marriage at all, it's about intellectual property and genetic contribution. A scientific collaboration, Lyra suggested, beginning to see a way forward. Exactly, Reed nodded. Dr. Novak unwittingly provided a valuable scientific contribution to the Andromedan royal lineage. This could be framed as an intellectual exchange rather than a personal union. Zephyr's crystalline structure began to pulse with brighter patterns. Such an interpretation would be acceptable. Though my progenitors may be disappointed about the ceremonial aspects. We could still acknowledge the contribution formally, Reed suggested. Perhaps as a scientific and cultural exchange between our peoples? Before they could explore this solution further, the door slid open and Solarin, the Andromedan progenitor, entered with an entourage of advisors. The registry notification has reached the Galactic Council, Solarin announced, their massive crystalline form dominating the room. Representatives from 7 systems have already sent congratulations on this historic cross-species union. Reed stepped forward, his diplomatic training taking over. Your Resonance, we've been discussing the nature of this union with Zephyr. It seems our cultures have different understandings of such arrangements. Solarin's form shifted in what might have been confusion. Different understandings? The molecular contribution has been made. The registry has confirmed compatibility. What is there to misunderstand? Lyra felt a moment of inspiration. Your resonance, on Earth, contributions to scientific advancement are recognized differently. We celebrate intellectual achievements through academic recognition and collaborative research. What Dr. Novak means, Reed interjected smoothly, is that her greatest contribution to your lineage could be ongoing scientific collaboration, not just a one-time molecular exchange. Solarin's crystalline structure pulsed with increasing light. You offer continued contributions to our resonance patterns? I'm a xenobiologist, Lyra explained, growing more confident. My research focuses on cross-species compatibility. What happened with the sandwich was an accident, but it suggests possibilities for intentional collaboration that could benefit both our peoples. A formal scientific alliance, Reed added, between Dr. Novak's research team and the Royal House of Celestial Resonance. The first of its kind between humans and Andromedans. Solarin's form began to emit patterns of light that spread to the other Andromedans in the room, creating a cascade of illumination that Lyra interpreted as excitement. Such an arrangement would be unprecedented, Solarin acknowledged. But potentially more valuable than a simple molecular union. Zephyr moved closer to Lyra. Would this satisfy your cultural requirements while honoring the contribution already made? Lyra nodded. It would. And it would allow us to explore this discovery properly, with full scientific protocol. There is one condition, Solarin stated, their tone suddenly formal. The offspring resulting from the initial molecular contribution must still be acknowledged in your human records. The Galactic Registry requires completion of the documentation. Reed tensed. What kind of acknowledgement? Scientific attribution, Zephyr suggested. In human terms, similar to what you call intellectual parentage of a discovery. Lyra found herself smiling for the first time since this ordeal began. I can live with being credited as a scientific contributor to a new generation of Andromedan crystalline structures. Then we have agreement, Solarin declared, their form blazing with light. The union will be reclassified as a scientific collaboration of highest order, with Dr. Lyra Novak recognized as molecular architect to the seventh resonance. 3 months later, Lyra stood in her expanded laboratory aboard space station Helios, surrounded by new equipment provided by the Andromedan Royal House. On the central platform, a small crystalline formation pulsed with patterns that matched both Zephyr's resonance and, remarkably, certain wave patterns found in human brain activity. The first successful human Andromedan collaborative resonance structure, Zephyr observed, standing beside her. The Council of Sciences is calling it revolutionary. And all because I added turmeric to my sandwich, Lyra mused, studying the readouts. Commander Reed entered the lab, carrying an official-looking data crystal. The final paperwork from the Galactic Registry, he announced. Your status has been officially updated from Molecular Union Partner to Scientific Contributor of Highest Order. Congratulations, Dr. Novak, you're no longer accidentally married. Just accidentally responsible for a scientific breakthrough that's reshaping interspecies relations, Lyra replied with a smile. And technically, Zephyr added, their tone containing what Lyra now recognized as Andromedan humor, still the official molecular architect of what will eventually become my offspring. Lyra laughed, watching the crystalline formation pulse in response to her voice. I can think of worse things than being part of galactic history. Though next time, she gave Zephyr a pointed look, maybe we should discuss cultural implications before I share my lunch. The crystalline structure between them pulsed brighter, as if laughing along with them, a living symbol of how misunderstandings could sometimes lead to the most unexpected breakthroughs. Elsewhere in the station, the cafeteria posted a new sign above the food dispensers, warning, offering food to diplomats may result in unexpected interstellar commitments. Consult xenobiological guidelines before sharing meals.